Do you really need to do a soil test? After all, don't you know what grows in your garden? Well, there are two times when you really do need to do a soil test. It's Alexandra here from the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel and blog with tips, ideas and inspiration for your garden. Now, I've been in my garden for 15 years and I haven't done a soil test. And the reason is that I'm just a bit nervous about all the question of the scientific side of it. But one of my veg beds really doesn't do very well. It doesn't grow things well. And in fact, none of the veg beds do grow things well. Whereas the rest of the garden is much easier to run and most of what I plant does do well. And several people have told me that I have to test the soil in the veg beds to find out what's going wrong. So one reason why you do have to use a soil test is there a part of your garden where things just aren't doing well? The second very good reason for doing a soil test is when you move to a new house. Because it's all very well looking and seeing what the neighbours have grown, but even in middle-sized gardens in towns, you can get pockets of quite different soil. I looked online to find out what kind of soil tests were most popular. I looked at Amazon and eventually I came up with two. One is the Test West Soil Test Kit and the other is the Moon City 3-in-1 Soil Tester. I bought one of each intending to compare them, but actually they are completely different. The Test West Soil Kit tests pH, nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, so it's testing the pH and the nutrients in your soil, whereas the Moon City 3-in-1 tests the pH, but then it tests the moisture and the light. So actually they're both very useful. There are links in the description below to both tests. Now, the Moon City 3-in-1 is really easy. It's one of those soil testers that you literally just jam into the ground and then a dial goes round. The dial responds quickly, and apart from the awkwardness of having to lie flat on the ground to read the results, you have an instant, easy answer. I did lots of testing. I tested several parts of the garden. And in most of the garden, the pH read as neutral, which is pH 7. But in one spot, in the veg beds that did not do well, it read as very acid with a pH below 4. So I looked up what sort of things grow well in soil with a very low pH. Apparently nasturtiums do well, and extraordinarily, that part of the veg bed, the one with the very low pH, actually has masses of self-seeded nasturtiums, and they don't go anywhere else in the garden. And I'd never thought to wonder why. So I realised I needed to delve deeper, so I opened the Test West Soil Test Kit. It has 4 vials, each with a different chemical, for measuring the pH, nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus in your soil. Now, the nitrogen should be measured in the spring, and the potassium and the phosphorus can be measured in spring and autumn, and the pH can be measured at any time of year. There are 4 little sample bottles, each with a coloured cap, and there's a small amount of powder in a coloured mark container and a tiny coloured spoon. These colours really help stopping you get confused because this is not a difficult test, but it can get fiddly. I dug up the soil with a pointed trowel so I could just get it a little bit further below the surface than not just right on the top. And I took the kitchen scales outside so that I could measure 50 grams of soil. And then I used a kitchen measuring jug to measure out 200 mils of water, put it into an old jam jar, clean jam jar, and gave it a really good shake. Test several parts of the garden and leave the soil to settle in the water until it's quite clearly divided up again. That could be anything from an hour to 24 hours. Now, make sure you keep the jars labelled. It's something you think you'll always remember, but actually you do need a bit of a note paper or a sticky note or something underneath. Once your soil and water has separated out again, you use the pipette provided to add 3 mils of the slightly cloudy water to a test tube. Then you add 0.5 of a mil of the liquid in the vial that matches that test tube cap and a heaped spoonful on that tiny matching coloured spoon. You put the lid back on, you shake really thoroughly for about half a minute and you leave for at least 5 minutes for it to settle. Then you match it against a palette of colours in the booklet provided. In the veg bed, which had shown up as acid in the Moon City test, it showed up that I was really very deficient in both phosphorus and potassium in the Test West soil results. So I really know that I need to add lots of mulch to this soil and possibly even a seaweed feed. But test again, and that is the great advantage of doing a soil test. You can see, has it worked, or might you need to fertilise some of the plants you grow in that area a bit more when you grow them next year. So I'll certainly be testing next spring and putting mulch on now. I hope you found that helpful. Please do hit like if you have. And if you haven't subscribed to the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel, we upload on Saturdays with tips, ideas and inspiration for your middle-sized garden. So hope to see you again. Thank you.